If I had $1 for every person that I'd spoken to that feels at some stage they've been ripped off by Google AdWords, I would be a seriously wealthy dude. In this upcoming series, I'm joined by John from Reach Local, and we're talking about Google AdWords. We're going to be speaking specifically about what AdWords is. We're going to be talking about how you can set a budget and establishing some ad spend. And we've actually got a really good example in there, which can give you an idea of how that might apply to you. And then in the last episode, we're talking about how AdWords ties into the digital ecosystem. AdWords is a buzzword that many people have heard of, yet very few people really understand. So sit back and enjoy this episode. And if you enjoy it, please leave some comments in the show notes. Thank you.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the Site Shed, where I am joined by John from Reach Local, and we're doing a 3-part series here. This is episode 2, and we're talking about Google AdWords. In the first episode, if you missed it, we were speaking, we gave a bit of a general overview as to what AdWords is, and in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about setting a budget and establishing your ad spend. So John, welcome back to the microphone.
Matt, thanks for having me.
No drama. So yeah, the last episode was good. We sort of got to the bottom of, what things like keywords are and all those sort of things. In this episode, we're going to get our hands a little bit dirty and we're going to talk more about setting a budget and establishing your ad spend. This is a pretty hot topic because I see, I'm sure you see it a lot more, but a lot of companies out there spending money, wasting money on Google AdWords just because they don't really know how to spend their money or where to spend their money.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot that goes into the setting up of a campaign so that you do get a good return on investment. Google is obviously a very profitable business because there are many ways to spend money, and if you're not measuring that, what is not measured cannot be managed, as I say. So it's important to make sure that you certainly know where all your dollars are going.
Yeah, okay. And so how would you track those figures? How do you know what you're spending or what a campaign's costing you or what it's returning and all this kind of stuff?
Okay, yeah, good question. Certainly, the way Reach Local certainly position themselves is that to work with a small medium business, it's important that we look at how many, I suppose, jobs or leads that you require weekly, monthly, or annually, however it may be, in order to be profitable. And then we take it back and say, okay, well, if I was to deliver you and you need 5 leads a week, well, do you convert, let's say, 10%? Well, then I need to deliver you 50 leads, and that's in the form of an actual phone call. So 50 phone calls. Then we have to measure back how many clicks that would require in order to obviously convert to phone calls. So then we take it right back to certainly the setup of the campaign so that we know how many impressions that need to be delivered, which obviously then relates to your clicks, depending on your click-through rate. And then obviously we track calls as well from that at a keyword level.
Okay, well, that's a good framework there. So I might just go back over that for the listeners because that's kind of a good way to look at it. So I suppose the first thing we need to address primarily, or you guys, you listeners out there, you need to address primarily is how much work can you actually manage? So there's such a massive illusion or disillusion there in the marketplace. So we get so many people come to say, I want to run an AdWords campaign and I want to come up first page for, Plumber Sydney or Plumber Melbourne or whatever it is. And realistically, if they did come up for that keyword, there's no way they'd be able to keep up with the work. So I think there needs to be, primarily from a business owner's point of view, you need to be realistic about the type of work that you can manage because, you don't want to be in a situation where you're getting all these leads and you can't actually fulfill them.
That's true. So one of the first things I always ask, businesses that I deal with is, do you have capacity to take on more work? And if so, what is that capacity? So certainly, if it's only 5 more jobs a month, well, then we'll take that into consideration as to how much AdWords spend that you'd need to have in order to generate that many leads.
Okay, cool. So that's something important for the listeners to consider, John. If you're going to be running an AdWords campaign, you're better off sending or running those ads towards a specific landing page, services page, splash page, whatever it is, so that when the visitors get to that or click on that ad, they're getting sent specifically to the page that's full of the information they're looking for.
Absolutely, Matt. Yeah. So obviously, that's a better user experience, as you say. And Google actually acknowledges that better user experience by, in fact, giving you what we refer to as a better quality score. A better quality score, simply put, means that you're going to be paying a lower cost per click. If the user's searching for something and you deliver exactly what they're using for, then certainly you're more inclined to get the business. You get a better click-through rate and a lower cost for that lead. So it's a win-win for you.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so getting back to this example, if we want to get 5 jobs per week, let's say that we have a website that's converting at, I don't know, just to make the figures easy, we'll use your 10% example.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be getting 50 leads through to the website every week in order for us to convert 10% of them, which is going to turn into 5 jobs. Is that right?
Exactly right. Yep.
Okay. So then in order for me to get 50 leads into my business, how do I look at that from an impression point of view?
Well, certainly it's important that if we're looking at 50 leads, we then have to look how conversion optimized the website itself is.
Okay.
Obviously, is where you come into it. And certainly, going back to what we were just referring to, a landing page with as many conversion points, so an easy-to-read contact number, obviously web forms and other abilities to communicate with you, because it is about obviously engaging with that client if you've driven them to your website. So if we were to get 50 leads, we then probably ideally, if we were converting 10% into a lead, we'd need 500 site visits. And at that rate, you'd be doing very well. And then to take it further back, as you say, there's impressions. So an impression, simply put, is when someone does a search on a search engine, in this example, Google, there will be a number of listings that come up. As we said, there's a number of paid ads. Every time that text ad is shown, that's an impression. So literally on, for example, a carpet campaign, for example, you may have as many as 30, 40,000 impressions every 30 days.
Wow.
So there is significant traffic. Yeah. So certainly I won't name the business, for example, that I'm using right now. This particular client of mine receives on average 80 leads. That's a combination of calls, emails, and web forms per month. They spend approximately $1,200 per month. They get between 500 and 600 visitors. And from those 500 site visits, they actually get between 60 and 80 actual leads each and every month. So they're converting at a very high rate because the fellow that owns the store is very informative, skilled, and once we've delivered that lead to them, and certainly it's upon them to then convert that into actual business. But as you say, counting back from how many jobs do we need, therefore how many leads do I need to deliver your business? In this example, 50 leads to generate 5, and we'd need 500 site visits. And then counting back, we can effectively say, well, if we need 500 site visits at an average cost per click of $2, well, guess what? It's going to cost you $1,000 to run a campaign.
Okay, that's a really good way to, I suppose, if you're looking at potentially running AdWords, it's a really good way to have a realistic approach to what you're going to need to spend on it. Because I can't tell you how many times I hear people come to us, almost every day saying, "Oh yeah, I'm spending $500 a month on my AdWords, and it's not giving me anything." But it's not going to give you anything.
Well, absolutely. And more importantly, if you're not measuring the conversions from what people are searching, you're probably not going to get a good feel for which keywords are working for you. So with our conversion-based optimization technology that we have at Reach Local, certainly we have the ability to say, okay, on this particular keyword, whether it be downpipes in Manly, fix my downpipe or whatever it may be, we can actually say, well, that keyword led to a phone call, and therefore we might increase our bid on that particular keyword. Now, maybe Plumber Sydney was a bit broad. It was a very expensive keyword, and maybe we didn't generate any phone calls. So we'll have the ability to say, well, hey, this is not actually giving us the return on investment that we would hope to get, and we'll therefore bid less on that particular keyword. So there's obviously certainly a tried and tested formula to get the best return on investment from your AdWords campaign.
Yeah. You know what? I think that is a really good framework. I'm not even sure if I want to go any further with this episode. I just want to leave the listeners with that. that's such a great takeaway. So if you are looking at potentially running an AdWords campaign, firstly, establish how many leads you need or you want to get a week, or how many jobs you want to get a week. And then from that, look at how many leads you're going to have to get into the website in order for you to convert them into jobs. So that's called a conversion. And then from that conversion, you can then from those leads coming in, you can then establish, how many impressions or how many how many times you're going to need to appear in a search query for those leads to actually come back to your website for you to convert that percentage. So would you add anything to that, John?
Yeah, certainly. I would certainly add that it's certainly important to measure and track the actual conversions that you're getting from your campaign, because you may think that it's important to show for plumber Sydney, but it may actually result in very little conversion in the way of an actual phone call or an email for you. So as much as you may think you know the keywords that are important, unless you're tracking the conversions at a keyword level, you're really not going to get an understanding of which keywords are working for you. And that's where people commonly make a mistake when they set up their own campaign.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well, look, I think that's a really good summary for this episode. I'm happy to wrap that up here if you are, John.
Yeah, mate, I'm happy with that if you're okay.
Yep, okay, fantastic. So in the following episode, we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about how AdWords, or the role AdWords plays in the whole digital ecosystem. So, I mean, I know this is something that you and I collaborate on very often, John, and I think the listeners are going to get a lot out of this. So we're going to talk about, how it ties into, your website, how it ties into SEO, how it ties into, it could be anything. It could be Facebook marketing. It could be the content creation strategy you've got, whatever it is. So stay tuned to the listeners. Stay tuned, listeners, for that episode. And that's a wrap. So if you haven't already, head across to thesiteshed.com and register for our Toolbox Talks, where you'll be regularly sent great episodes just like this straight to your inbox, so you'll never miss one. If you want to join the community, you can head across to thesiteshed.com/members, where for a small monthly fee, you'll get access to regularly updated training material, as well as access to our forum, where you can mingle and collaborate with trade-based business owners just like you from all over the world. If you're enjoying this podcast, please head across to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps us spread the word and reach the masses. Likewise, if you know anyone that might benefit from the content we create, then please go ahead and share this with them.
You've been listening to Toolbox Talks by The Site Shed. For more great content just like this, head across to thesiteshed.com and join the amazing community of savvy trade-based business owners.